Breaking news.
Welcome to the Tulsa Music Stream. And now, your hosts, Scott, Jana, and Nine. You wanted the dirt on Tulsa. You got it.
Welcome to Tulsa Music Stream, episode 75. We are about to be joined by the legendary dUg Pinnick of King's X. We appreciate you guys tuning in on a Monday evening.
Yeah.
We're getting the week off to a bang. Dustin Little, I know that you just texted me. I'll have to check that later on. Sorry, I can't get to that right now. We are awaiting dUg's arrival. We want to remind you guys, if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, we would really appreciate it if you would do that. There are all kinds of ways you can watch and listen to this program. If you just get on YouTube, search for Tulsa Music Stream, you can subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know anytime we go live. You can also watch us live on Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, and you can always see the replays on those platforms as well. Maybe you prefer audio. Maybe audio is your thing. You can hear us on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. That's just a few of our mediums that you can see us. dUg is joining us, so I'm going to get him in the room. Scott, how's your evening going?
Hey, I'm doing okay. You know, it's going to be a pleasure to talk to dUg,
Yes.
King's X. Just make sure you.
Hey man,
Make
how
sure
you
you
doing?
guys share and hit the notification bell on our YouTube pages and all that good stuff, so we can get as many people in here as possible.
Yes, and the man himself has joined us. I'm going to put him on screen. dUg Pinnick of King's X, there he is. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Howdy. Hello.
Hello, it's so good to see you. Thank you for coming in with us on a Monday. We're getting this week off to a bang. So, hey, before we get into talking about the latest album, Three Sides of One, I noticed you did something really fun last week. I want to put this up on the screen. Tell us about this Ultimate Jam Night special event benefit for Animal Tracks. I guess you guys did this at the Whiskey, and you were part of that. Tell us about that.
Well, a friend, Jessica Rojas, she's the one who puts them on, and she works at a animal place. I don't exactly know everything that they do, but she rescues animals and takes care of them, and it's just a really, really cool thing. I haven't really, how you put it, gotten into the what goes on there.
Sure.
But she's just a good friend of mine, and she's always wanted me to be a part of whatever that goes on. So, you know, I'm always up for that.
That's cool. Do you get to hang out at the Whiskey a lot with your buddies?
I go to the Whiskey a lot. You know, it's not like my favorite hangout or I'm always there, but you know, if somebody's playing there and I know them, I'm there, you know, and the Whiskey's a cool place. And I mean, back when I first moved here, when we started doing the Ultimate Jams every Tuesday, yeah, I think all of us that go there every Tuesday for like a year. Wow. We're a part of the furniture, you know, the bouncers and the bartenders. They all, you know, I walk in and dUg, come on in, you know. Yes. I put my arms up to be searched. I go, oh, come on, man, go through, you know. So it's good.
Kind of reminds me of when Lemmy would be always at that game at the Rainbow.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, right up the street.
Yeah.
Right up the street, about 3 blocks. Yeah, I've run into him many times before he passed away.
Yeah.
We even did a benefit concert for him. Not a benefit, but a birthday party for him. About 6 months before he died. It was pretty. It was a fun time, and just knowing Lemmy just a little bit that I do, he, like everybody else, he was one of those people that everybody loved. He just had that vibe,
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's get into talking about this album. You've done a lot of press about this so far. This came out last September, and it is called Three Sides of One, available everywhere on Sony Inside Out Music. Now, this was the first album you guys had done in 14 years, and from what I read, it took a little convincing on your part to get Ty and Jerry on board to do this. Talk a little bit about why that was the case, and then talk about the process of creating it and recording it out there in California.
Okay, I'll probably forget the second question, so you'll have to tell me again. But
it's okay.
But the first half is after we got done with X5, 15, whatever you want to call it. It's not our 15th record, but we just kind of didn't know what else to call it, if it was our 14th or 15th or 16th, because we've got a live one and we've got a bootleg and we got all these things. So he says, how many records have we got out? And we just said, let's just call it XV. And we left it at that. That's the way we do things. But when we finished that record, the morale in the band, there was just none. And as far as we're concerned is, that our heart wasn't in that record the way we wanted it to be. I mean, I'm not going to knock the record because a lot of people love that record and say it's one of their favorite records. And we put our heart into those songs and did the best we could, but we just, the camaraderie wasn't there. We just felt like, we've been doing this for years and nobody's buying the music. Who cares? And we was just kind of feeling blah about it.
Sure.
So Ty decided later on, I found later, because I didn't know why they kept vetoing my request to do a new record, but I was told that they just felt like we didn't have anything to offer yet. And when they felt like we had something to really give our people, something we could stand up and go, we put our heart and life into it, they'd be willing to do it. But until then, everybody just kind of went their separate ways. So I put a couple bands together and did a couple things, and you do what you do. And then one day, I remember we were on tour, because we never stopped touring. We just stopped putting records out.
Right.
And we were somewhere on a tour bus, actually, and we haven't done a tour bus in a while. But I remember we were drinking wine and we were all pretty toasty. And I got my confidence up, because I mean, we are three. We love each other, and we have been a band forever, but we're still very insecure people.
Sure.
And so I wrote a bunch of songs, and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to play them for them, and see what they think. And I played them a couple songs. I played them Flood and Swipe Up and a couple other tunes. And they literally went, whoa, I like this. And then I remember Jerry saying, well, maybe we can do a record. And then Ty and Jerry both said, well, I got some tunes, want to hear mine? And so Jerry played a couple songs that he did, and Ty played a couple of his, and we all kind of got excited again. And to make a long story short, all the cards lined up correctly. Derek Schulman pops up, a good friend of mine who played in a band called Gentle Giant in the 70s. And he ran MCA for years. He signed Pantera and Bon Jovi and stuff like that. So he's a pretty heavyweight, and King's X is one of his favorite bands. And he would always come to LA and take me out to dinner like once a year and go, okay, when are you going to put a new record out?
Right.
I'd always make excuses, and he goes, I'll help you. I can do whatever. And so finally one day I just says, okay, this is the deal. This is what we're looking at, and this is how we feel. And he took that and ran with it and got us a record deal, and a good one, that we could go make a proper record, not, the $10,000 deal that you have to do it at home like most record companies give you, but they gave us a real record budget where we can go to a studio and spend a month and do it. And so we did. We went in, and that's the first time we made a proper record with a producer and in a studio since Ear Candy, I would say.
Right.
I mean, and it's amazing. that it's charting, was it globally one of your highest of your careers?
Yeah, number 10 on the USA current album sales chart.
Really?
Number 2 on USA current hard music album chart. So definitely very successful.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. That's awesome.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, we're here to keep you informed, man.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, that's
so
really
that's
good.
how that turned out. That's how there's a whole lot of stories in between that, but that's the condensed version.
Right.
Did you mention, and I don't know if an interview that you guys were still in debt, like, I don't know, some millions of dollars for record
for
companies?
the old albums?
Well, yeah, with Atlantic, those 6 records we did with Atlantic, yeah, they spent about $2 million trying to make us super rock stars.
Sure.
And it was a great tax write-off for them, even though we still owed it.
Yeah.
But here's the good news. Probably a few months ago, I can't remember how many months ago it was though, but we found out through Atlantic that they were allowing all the bands that they've had for years and years that nothing was going on with. They decided to just give us our music back and let us do what we need to do with it.
Oh, wow.
And so they did. Yeah, so they did. So we have the rights to, I think, most of all of our music from Atlantic again. And we've actually been getting little checks in the mail.
That's great.
That's good news.
The streamings that's happening. So we're excited about that.
So with
it's a new beginning for us.
With that being said, do you have, now that you have the full rights back, do you have any kind of plans for re-releases or anything special that you guys would do?
Well, I think most of the records are out on vinyl. That was the first thing that happened. Right. So that got done. But I have an archive of lots of bootlegs and lots of live shows. And I've got demos and songs that didn't make the record. I've got 30 years of it.
Wow.
And I've been trying to just reel myself in to sit down and pull up all the hard drives and, go through them, master them, and, doctor them up a little bit and make a box set, a King's X box set. I'm still pushing for that,
Wow, that's incredible. Now tell us a little bit about who produced the latest album, Michael Parn, and how did you meet him and what did he bring to the album? I
love Michael. Michael produced my Strum Some Up record.
Okay.
That was a solo record I did about maybe 20 years ago now. I'm so old, I've lost track of dates sometimes. It's just like it's all runs together to me. But he did my first, probably my 4th solo record.
Okay.
And then when I moved to LA, he offered that I could stay at his studio until I found a place and figured out what I was going to do out there. Mm-hmm. And so I slept in a tracking room. Literally, there were amps, and I put my computer up and put a cot on the floor. And for about 6 months, I lived there, just getting my bearings. And I figured, it was a time when everything was falling apart in the music industry and in the world, basically. The housing crunch, everybody, all that stuff happened. So, I wasn't making any money either. And I thought, I can't barely afford to pay my mortgage, and I just didn't know what to do with myself. So I said, okay, I'm going to sell my house and just pack up my guitars and amps and some clothes and go to LA and do like everybody did when they first started. You put it in your car and you sleep in your car until you get it.
Sure.
I heard there's so many people I know that did that. So I said, well, as old as I was, I just thought, why not? What have I got to lose?
Sure.
And so I moved out there and stayed with Michael for a while and got my bearings. So we became good friends. And he's a master at, sonics, and he's engineered, I would say, you name it, he's engineered there. He's got stories from Snoop Dogg to what's the guy the rapper Sugar, what's his name?
Suge Knight?
Suge Knight. I mean, he was around those people, where they'd come in and go, we want the masters of this record. And they go, well, can you pay us? And they put the guns on the table and go, we want the masters.
Wow. There you go.
I mean, yeah, he's got stories. And he did sound for American Idol for about 5 or 6 years. And he just did a lot of things, and I learned a lot from him. Anyway, he Ty loved the Strum Some Up record so much that he was really impressed by Michael's production. Yeah. And so when we decided to make this record, I said, hey, let's get Michael, and everybody went, yeah. And so we got together with him, and we had the greatest time. Michael is a funny guy, and a part of it. He's one of those guys that keeps winding you up and keeps you laughing. And him and Jerry especially really got along real well because their humor is really the same. Yeah. So we had some really good times making this record.
That's really cool. Talking about producers, and we know that producers have a lot to do with how an album happens. And I know this next topic has been beat to death with you, and we don't want to just keep beating the dead horse, but Sam Taylor and his involvement in the first 4 albums, it's well documented that was a somewhat contentious relationship, and it's also well documented that I think you guys felt that he got a little bit too much credit for the King's X sound. And I don't know where your relationship is with Sam these days, but talk a little bit about that time period, your relationship with Sam. Was it contentious from day one, or was that something that just kind of deteriorated over the 4 albums?
Well, for me, being having the spirit of an empath who can be manipulated and emotionally controlled, that was being done to me, and I didn't know it. And I don't even think he realizes it, really, if you want to go down the rabbit hole. It's just people being people and how they work with each other. So for me, it was a hard time because I was always, it brought out all my insecurities, put it that way.
Gotcha.
Being put under a microscope at everything that you do, whether it was Sam or anybody, was horrifying to me. So it was a hard time for me. Sam was very adamant in a lot of things that he wanted us to do, and we fought him on it. And most of the time he won. Right or wrong, I'm not saying he was right and we were wrong or whatever. Right. We were just a 3-piece band that was set in our ways and wanted to do it our way. And all of a sudden this guy comes along who's a producer who's supposed to direct us and guide us into a place where we need to be. Well, it was met with resistance, poor guy.
Gotcha.
So, I would love to hear his side of the story, but we gave him a hard time in many ways. There was lots of fights and lots of shaming and hurt feelings. And to this day, I still think about some of the things that were said and done, and I just go, my God, this is good for a movie.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we created this music that the world loved, and it changed a lot of people's lives and kind of put a new standard in rock and roll, so I can't argue with that. The harmonies, people say that Sam brought the harmonies in, but we were always harmonizing. We were always doing that. I could play demos 10 years before there was Sam that we were doing harmonies and vocal things. But Sam was the coach, I think. He's like a football coach.
Right.
The Phil Jackson.
What was that movie, Hoosiers?
Oh yeah.
I remember seeing that movie, and the coach, that was Sam. That was, if you want to know who Sam was, watch that movie. The coach is who Ty and Jerry and I always felt that's who that guy was. Now Sam took us to see that movie, and he said, when we get done with the movie, I want you to tell me, who do you think you are in this movie?
Oh wow.
And we left the movie, and Sam asked us all who we were, and we kind of told him who we felt we were as an individual in the movie. And we said, so who are you, Sam? And so we thought he was the coach. This is how we took it. Yeah. He was the little kid in the corner that everybody pissed all over and treated like shit.
Gotcha.
That's how he felt he was. He was the guy that nobody cared, and he was nothing. And so at that point, I realized with that kind of a personality back in your head, what came out was sort of the opposite. Some people hide their true nature, and they take the opposite side. And so we considered him the mean,
Sure.
ogre who was just making us, oh, you're not practicing, you're not good enough, you got to keep going, and blah,
Right.
blah, blah. Who cares? And I'd write lyrics, and he'd go, who cares about those lyrics?
Jeez.
Come on, work it. He was really hard on us. And as a result of it, yeah, we produced some top quality stuff, I think. But sadly enough, to this day, those 4 records, I barely can listen to them because the baggage that I felt.
Sure.
And it wasn't, I would say about a year ago, I literally pulled up out of the Silent Planet and listened to it. And I hadn't listened to it since it came out.
Wow.
And everything I hated about it, it all went away. And I realized that it was what it was for the moment.
Sure.
And I walked away going, okay, I'm okay with this now. But it took me a long, long time. I got to get to Gretchen next. And I haven't done that yet. I played the first 2 songs in Gretchen, and I took it off. I go, I can't do this.
Sure.
And but hopefully one day I'll be able to get that one too, like other people did, because those records really affected people and changed people's lives, saved people's lives.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are people that are alive today. This guy told me his wife put the gun down when she heard Summerland. And he said, me and my son want to thank you, with tears in his eyes.
Oh, wow.
How do you, LBGTQ, I say it right, person came to see us play one night and with a friend, and during Believe, I started railing about believing in yourself and trusting yourself and not giving a rip what everybody else thought about you and all that kind of stuff. And the next year we came back to the town, and this person came up to me with their friend, and they wanted to talk. And I go, well, what's up? And they said, I was going to kill myself. But when you said, don't care, don't worry about what other people say, and be who you are and do what you do. And she changed her life, and she's a woman now, but she's alive. And she's alive, shall I say, not but she's alive. And so, I know that so many rock stars, if you want to call us that, have those stories, but they do happen, and they're out there. You just, you go out there and you do what you do. And, old scripture in the Bible said, don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. And that's what I do. I just go out and be me, and I do what I do. And what happens, the trail that's left behind, every now and then I get to see the seeds that have been grown into beautiful, flowers and trees, so.
Well, let me share something with you. This is a perfect segue. I want to encourage you this evening. I want to put a picture up here. I was going through your website, and I got so excited. I found a section of pictures on there that are taken by a personal friend of ours named Jimmy Fusen. And I just want you to look at this picture for a minute. And if you ever are sitting in your room thinking to yourself, man, we just never got as commercially big as I had hoped. This is what you do for people. I want you to look at the way they're looking at you and the adoration they have and the joy that you bring. That is why King's X is big. There's difference between big and commercially successful. You guys are big because you have the longevity, and you've had such an effect and impact on people, and you just see their faces. So always know what your band means to the world.
Yeah. Have you ever stepped back and maybe pinpoint what might have not got you to that commercial success that you guys should have had?
I don't think it was anything. I do believe that we were just weird. We weren't what the normal crowds just don't get it. This is the honest truth. Every time we play, if we're opening for someone, if it's a festival, if we're playing for people that have never heard of us, even a whole crowd of people, we get a standing ovation. We get the wow, but they don't go buy the records.
Well,
it's always been that way. It's always been that way from the day we started. People were losing their minds, but yet we still couldn't fill out a club.
To me, you guys are always sort of like how Rush is and how Kiss is. They have a cult following. fans that stick with them. You can watch any King's X video live, and you guys don't even have to sing your songs. They'll just sit there and sing every word, and you guys just play the music and just let them enjoy their night. And heck, you could probably save your voice, But it's just amazing how the love that they give you guys back, and it must be appreciated and felt,
Oh, yeah.
It's always a surprise, and you kind of, when this is something that I not struggle with, but I don't think people understand is when people love you and they let you know it, and they do all the gestures that everybody would like to get. When you get it, you don't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, somebody says, what's it like being Doug Pinnick? And I go, well, I get up and wash my face in the morning, and I look in the mirror and I see everything I don't like about my face. Aww. I said, that's how I start the day. Yeah. Most of us, does anybody get up and go, man, I'm badass. I am hot. I am ready to get out here and rule the world. If I did that, I wouldn't be doing an interview right now with you.
I want to talk a little bit of...
I'd be an asshole, nobody would want to be around me,
Sure.
I'd like to talk a little bit about Eddie Trunk and Megaforce. Are you guys still good with each other, friends and everything?
I talk to Eddie all the time. I love Eddie. I love that man. He loves King's X, and he lets me know.
He comes to Tulsa all the time, and I've chatted with him numerous times. We've had him on our show. He's good friends with one of our sponsors of our show. But great guy. I know he was a main part of signing you guys to Megaforce, and I know Johnny Z recently passed away.
And
how close were you with Johnny?
We weren't all close. Like we didn't talk every day, but we knew each other and we loved each other and we respected each other. And every now and then we'd be in contact with each other. And every time we'd play, I think it was Sellersville. Him and Marsha lived there, and they would come see us, and we'd make sure they got a VIP seat. And during the show, I would always call them out and say, if it wasn't for these two people, we would not be here playing for you. And they would always get a standing ovation. And they were some of the most wonderful people I've ever met. Great people.
Doug, you've mentioned a couple times, and Scott and I are musicians as well, obviously on a smaller level, but you mentioned something that is just really ringing true with me. You talked about the insecurities that you guys have. Do you feel, because I've always felt this way, I know this is a big reason why I play and why I started playing when I was 12, is that I am seeking that approval and adoration of people. Do you think insecure people that play music are really just seeking that approval from people, and that is kind of why you play?
No. I play because this is what I've been doing my whole life, but I know it's a part of it. Growing up where I grew up, a few things happened in my childhood which somehow triggered a self-shame in me. And the only thing that seemed to get people's attention was when I sang. And I don't think I put it into words, and it was something in my mind, but every time I sang, people cried, people reacted. I remember the first time I remember someone crying when I sang. She walks up to me and gets on her knees and puts her hands on my shoulders and prayed for me. That's how little I was.
Wow.
And I remember her praying, saying that God was going to use me and ask God to make me a leader and a healer and blah, 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 like most Christians who are praying for someone would do. And I remember it didn't matter to me. It didn't make any sense. I just kind of was going, this is weird. Why is she doing this? And I was looking around like, I hope she hurry up and quits, so I can go play. And but it's never changed, and my reaction has always been the same. It's like, okay, they like it, good.
Yeah.
I'll just keep doing what I do. And through the years and through healings and through mental, working out all the drama and trauma that I had in my life, I realize it's a good thing, and I'm glad that I got to do it. And it was the way it's supposed to be. That's why people say, would you change anything? And I don't know. Not at this point. I've finally settled into who I am. I like myself. I appreciate what I've done now. It took me 70 years to get there, but one day I just woke up and realized, what's the big deal? Why are you feeling this way about yourself? No one else is just telling you that. Right. No one else ever did. The only rejection verbally I ever got was when I was 3, when I woke up one morning and I went into the living room and I said to my great grandma, "Where's my mommy?" And she said, "She's gone." And I started going, well, I want my mommy. Where's she at? Where's she at? And I started really getting, I gave a emotional temper tantrum of just panic, a 3-year-old, his mom's gone, you're going, where's she at? And my great grandmother grabbed me and she shook me up and she said, "Quit your bellowing. She don't want to be bothered with you." And that was the day everything changed in my life. It was like, nobody loves you and nobody cares, And the funny thing is, it's in the back of my mind. It has never gone away. They don't want to be bothered with you. But yet, here I am in your face, doing what I do. So it's sort of like a dichotomy in so many ways. It's like I'm doing everything that my insecurities don't want me to do.
Right.
And I got away with it because there's something in my voice that people are attracted to. And I go, wow, it's, what do you do? But you just go for it,
Certainly.
Yeah. I wanted to congratulate you for being in Rolling Stone's top 100 was metal songs of all time.
Yes.
And it was for Over My Head.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that.
That was a shock. I mean, last time we were in Rolling Stone, they reviewed Gretchen Goes to Nebraska, gave us 4.5 stars. That's almost 5. Most of the bands got that. We got that standard great, thumbs up. And they even gave us a good review on it. But at the end of it, they said, it's a great record if you don't mind being beat over the head with loaves of bread and fish.
Oh, goodness sakes.
And that was a time when if you even said you were a Christian, you were just ignored in the music industry. It was not cool. And the thing about us is we were believers at the time, but we didn't want to be a Christian band. We wanted to be a normal rock and roll band that everybody just liked because they liked them, not judged because you didn't say Jesus enough in a song. And so when that happened, it was like, oh. And I think, that helped slow down the momentum for us. We weren't like Stryper, who went out and, the gimmick of Stryper, whatever the motives were, there was a gimmick going on and the kids fell for it. The Motley Crue thing, the glam thing, they did it. But we were just so weird and so different. And the rumor of us being Christian, people just didn't know what to do with us. And if you were anti-religion during the 80s, that's the way it was in the secular world, and it was a kiss of death for you. So it was a very big struggle for us,
Well, I'm a hair metal fan. I love hair metal, and I love heavy metal. And you guys were kind of sort of that bridge between, that 80s heavy metal into the grunge, and you seem to have been approved by both sides, and you hung out with Jerry Cantrell, all those guys. And did you hang out with any of the 80s guys?
Well, we didn't get signed till 88.
Right.
So we didn't know anybody back in the day. I remember going to Seattle playing on our first record, and Jeff Ament told me that everybody that was in a band was there because nobody ever came to Seattle, and if a national act came, everybody went to see him. So as far as I know, and from a few other people that told me, like, you name the bands that came out of Seattle, and they were all there in '88. And grunge happened in 90. Alice in Chains gave me their first demo. I still have it to this day. In fact, I posted it not too long ago.
So cool.
Jeff and I hung out while they were in Mother Love Bone, and I remember when he sent me when Andrew died, and he put together Pearl Jam, and they were called Mookie Blaylock. I remember he sent me a cassette of that with Temple of the Dog on the other side, which nobody had heard of either.
Right.
Yeah. So it was like, and then we can go back to Pantera too. I mean, I remember going to see Pantera and walking up to the dressing room, and Don says, "Gretchen goes to Nebraska." And that's the first thing he said to me, Wow. And the whole band, Rex calls me his mentor. He'll tell you to your face, And Don said the groove would not be in Pantera without King's X. And Power of Love was one of his favorite songs. And he told me, one night we got drunk, and I was sitting in his limo, and we were drinking, and it was King's X had played, I think, and he had come to see us. And him and Rita, his girlfriend, were sitting there, and he started telling me all about Power of Love and what it meant to him. And I'm going, oh, man, don't worry about it. You have to tell me. And Rita said, no, listen to him. And he sat down and told me Power of Love, every line of the song and every riff and what it meant to him. And I went, wow. And Rex told me they'd go to shows and they're riding in their car playing King's X.
Wow.
So, I remember talking to Jerry one time, and I said, Jerry, we played that shit out of Alice in Chains. He says, we played that shit out of King's X. So, and I remember Laney said to me one time, I think it's gonna rain, that the melody, and he said, I'm doing you, Doug. And I'm going, oh, and I gave him a big hug. And I felt like he was my little brother, and they used to say to us, we can't wait to open for you guys,
Oh, man.
Well,
the harmonies are very similar between you and Alice in Chains,
Yeah, there's a similarity there. They brought the darkness of us and whatever, and their side of who they were, kind of a combination of it. And I feel a part of them. I feel a part of Pantera too, and they feel a part of us, because we all pushed each other,
Yeah.
I remember, hearing. I remember when we did the Dogman record, and I thought, everybody's drop D tuned now, and everybody's heavy as they can be with all these melodies. What do we do? I go, well, I'm just gonna tune down lower. And I wrote Black the Sky, And I thought, we were all pushing each other. I remember hanging with, or talking to Chris Cornell, and we were making the Dogman record, and they were making Super Unknown. And we were talking about how we need to start crooning a little bit more and stop trying to scream so high, because we so out comes Black Hole Sun and Flies in Blue Skies, it was like, there was just such a camaraderie between all of us in so many ways. And, funny thing is, in most of the bands that I've ever come across, there might be one or two super King's X fans in the band. The rest of them could care less about us. But our influence, you could hear it in their music, Yes. And I always smiled and go, Doug, don't feel bad about anything, because you're a part of rock and roll history. Some of those riffs that those people are doing are your riffs.
Yeah,
that's so true.
And I'm going. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, there's something to be said. There's something to be said. Go ahead.
The good thing about it is those guys will talk about it. I don't like to talk about it. I don't like to toot my own horn.
Sure.
But I love it when they talk about how we affected them in the stories. The King's X book is a real good book about that. We asked a whole lot of rock musicians who said they loved King's X to give their little 2 cents on King's X. And half the book is from super, super rock stars who talk about how we affected them, from Andy Summers, who says we're his favorite band, to, down to Billy Sheehan says I'm his favorite bass player. It's like, come on. It's like,
that's awesome.
What do you do with that? And I want to go tell everybody, but, at the end of the day, what does it matter? It doesn't matter, because they're not going to go play a King's X record and go, oh, I get it. They're still going to go to their favorite bands and do what they do, because it's all about the soup.
Sure.
You know, it's just the truth. We're all an army of moving forward.
Doug, have you always used distortion on your bass? Is that something you were incorporating into your bass tone in the early days?
Yeah. I remember I first started playing bass when I was 23 years old. Can you believe that?
Wow.
And I remember about a year later, no, it was around that time, I heard Roundabout by Yes. And I'm going, what is this bass tone? And I remember putting on the Who record, Live at Leeds, and talking about my generation, that song. And there's one spot where the bass, John Entwistle plays this just lead, and he did his thing. And I went, what is that? And I had never heard a tone like that. And so I went to the music store and I asked them, how do I get that sound? And they didn't know what I was talking about. But I did my research, took me a year or so, and I found that it was Roto Sound strings. And so I got me a set. They were real expensive. I had to really save up for them. And there was that clangy kind of tone. And then when I moved to Florida with a friend of mine, I had these two cabinets, these Ampeg 18-inch cabinet speakers, and it was a very old vintage amp, and the amp was inside the cabinet, and you moved the latch and you turned it over, and then the amp was there, and then you turned it over and put it back in. This is how old this amp was, okay? And I played through that amp, and it was just, you know, the Jamie Jamerson big bassy sound, and I rocked on with it. But one day this kid comes to one of our rehearsals back in Florida when I had just started playing, and he had this amp, a trainer amp, and he says, try this amp out. And I plugged into it, and it was like, it went clang, 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 and I'm going, this is it.
Oh, wow.
And so I literally gave him both of those cabinets for the head. Now, I should have gave him one.
Right.
And kept the other. No, I wanted that amp so bad I didn't care. And I remember he looked at me like, you are the biggest fool in the world.
Oh, jeez.
But I didn't realize he was thinking that, but now I look back and go, wow. So he took the cabinets and I kept the amp. And that's my sound. And I played through that amp until for about 15 years until we got a record deal. And then I started getting guitar heads and
you have
honing in on it.
You have your Tech 21 pedal and your signature bass, and
there's the pedal right
and
there.
You got a head.
Yeah.
Dude, tell us a little bit about your endorsement here.
Well, Rudy Sarzo came over last week and said, Doug, I want to try out your pedal. And so I set it up, and we sat here right in the studio, and he just went through it, did everything he could to just see how he liked it. And he says, I'm going to have to get me one. And he says, well, they were playing the Whiskey the next weekend. I said, why don't you take the pedal with you? And so he dialed it in, and we went to see him at the Whiskey. And oh my God, he sounded so good.
Really?
And he says, Doug, this pedal makes me want to play. It makes me feel like I'm having fun again. And
awesome.
he said all the things that I wanted people to say about the pedal. And, people are chiming in. So, it was the number one selling, it was the number 5 in the top, it was in the top 5 number one selling pedals at Clearwater when it first came out. Man. And Bass Player Magazine gave it the best pedal of the year, I think.
Wow.
I forgot what year it was. And it's really a good pedal. What it does is whatever tone that you're used to playing with, it exaggerates it and makes you want to go to it. It's the fun of it. It makes bass playing fun again. I'm a tone freak, and I've been a tone freak my whole life. Bass, treble, mid-range. As a kid, it was like there would be knobs on the stereo, and there would be a tone knob, and I'd turn it back and forth to get the sound that I liked, even though they slap my hand and say, Dougie, don't touch the stereo.
Right.
I need to sneak over there and hear it.
You're like, Mom, this needs to be corrected.
Yeah, and through the years, I became the tone chaser. And so I've learned a lot of intricate tone bending for my bass, because Ty Tabor has the hugest guitar sound I ever heard, and then you got a kick drum, and you gotta get the bass around the kick drum and this humongous guitar, and so I learned to EQ my bass and get the feeling of playing it somehow in that pedal, and as a result of it, I brought that pedal so many times to have people try out. And they'll plug it in, and then the band will start playing, and all of a sudden there's bottom, there's warmth in the mix, there's tone. Sound men come up and go, I use your pedal all the time now. Wow. I just put it up here and let the bass player play through it. It's user friendly. There's not a whole lot. You don't have to fight to get the bass in the mix either. And that was always my problem, is I'd go to shows and there's never bass in the mix. I mean, it's like, where's the bass? I mean, you got guitar, you got vocals, you got kick drum, you got everything. Bass, nowhere to be heard. And one time I went to the sound man at this one band was playing. I'm going, dude, where's the bass? And he said, put these headphones on. And he cued the bass up, and I listened. I'm going, I get it. Bass players, because a lot of, I'm not saying all bass players, but a lot of bass players, because they haven't been able or know how to or had given the opportunity to get the tone that's in their head, they have to deal with what's there. And a lot of times it's a crappy tone. Right. And when you turn it up, when you turn your bass up, oh, you feel it, it's fun. It might not sound good, but you feel it. And it's there. So I've found that a lot of bass players have just learned to go with it, you know. And what I tried to do with this pedal was, instead of going for it, get the tone that you love, no matter what the volume is, and stand there and just enjoy it. And then the sound man can take your sound and put it in the mix.
Tell us a little bit about your bass guitar, that Schecter. Oh man, it's got like one knob.
I've always had one knob. You know, even through the years of playing bass, I never used the tone knob, and I never turned it up or down. I just went, who needs it, you know? Right. And so, one, and I thought it would kind of be unique, since it's actually, no, I've had a couple signature basses, and I think they're all one knobs. Because Yamaha made me some too, and and Dean, I have some Dean basses. Yeah, all of them are one knob. Okay, I have to, but I don't know. It's like I'm married to this tone. But now with King's X, there's some songs that I don't want to have that ratty tone. I want to have this fat, like low, you know, just meaty tone. So I've learned to turn it off and just get the meaty tone too, like Flies in Blue Skies, and there's a few songs that King's X does that like Hear From You Not Me, Nothing But the Truth, or just some of those songs. They just need that Jamie Jamerson, like, you know, bass, that low end thing. And so so I hope I answered your question.
No, you totally did. We have a lot of musicians that watch this show, and they would have absolutely scolded us had we not delved into a little bit of your gear and tone stuff. Do you have time for a couple of viewer questions before we let you go?
Yes.
Okay, Scott, do you have those pulled up?
Yeah.
If you've got some, let's give him some.
I have this one from Scott Cooper. Says Michael Wagner said they were the most talented band that he ever got to work with. He said he basically got the sound set and pushed record. That wasn't a question, but it's just more of a comment.
It's kind of what he did. I remember doing that, and I remember somebody brought up Goldilocks, and he never heard it. And he said, hey guys, he says, people rave about this song. Can you play it for me? And Jerry went into the drum booth, and me and Ty sat in the studio and just played it. And Michael set up a mic, and I kind of sang it. And when we got done, he said, look at my arms. He said, I got goosebumps.
Aww.
And he asked us to re-record it for that record, and we did.
Wow.
And I remember when we went into the studio to do that record, both records actually, we would track a song, and the first time we would track it, we would come out and go, so what do you think? And he goes, well, I don't know what to tell you. It's like, usually I always go back and do this and tell him to do that, and and you know, and I'll make them do the song like 10 or 12 times until I get the take that I think is right. But I don't know what to tell you guys. It's okay. You know, and that's how he was. It was, and you know, every producer that we've ever worked with has been that way. If they'll sit there and just go, okay, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to make this any better. Let's just kind of move on to the next song. Yeah. And that's the way it was with Brendan too. You know, all those people, and it was a surprise to us too, because with Sam, nothing was ever good enough. Mm-hmm. And he would just push us and push us and push us and push us. And I realized is maybe he didn't know what was good enough. But,
you know what? I think
as a result of it, we learned, you know.
I think the liberation you guys must have felt during the Dogman album, to me, it translates into the finished product. That is actually my favorite album that you guys have done. I love.
Thank you.
They're amazing. It's just so good, and there's so much emotion in it. And this is not related to that, but I do want to ask you about this while I'm thinking about it. One of my favorite bands in the '90s was hardly anyone knows about them, was the Galactic Cowboys, and I know that Wally Farkas has worked with you. Talk a little bit about working with Wally.
Wally is perfect pitched, and Wally is one of those guys that if you want to run anything past him, he hears it. He's just the guy. He would be the fourth member of the band if we ever needed a guitar player. Oh wow. He's the only guy that we could ever work with. Him and Ty are pretty much best friends. I would say me and Wally are his brothers, you know. And we run everything past Wally. When we did 3 Sides to One, Wally came out and hung out with us, and you know, and it was his approval, you know. I mean, Wally's the guy. Yeah. I wish you could meet him. He's an incredible person. He's funny. Yeah. He's totally disrespectful. He's just everything that you love in a human being, you know. Yeah, for sure. I hope he hears that.
Me too. Scott, you got anything else?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about your song "Let It Rain." It's a cool video. The album's great, but in the lyrics you have where it says "Let it rain, wash the fear away." Exactly what fear are you referring to in that song?
I'm being political right now. Okay. Just you know, watching the way the separation of left and right, of religion and non-religion, of straight and gay, of black and white, basically. It's just, you know, there's no more gray, it seems like. And it's all driven by fear. Everything. If you don't understand someone, then you're going to be afraid of them. Mm-hmm. And what's happening right now is, you know, there's so much information that talks about the bad side of everything. And then you equate it with the whole genre of people. And then all of a sudden, they're all the enemy. A transgender kills a bunch of kids in a school. Horrible. It was a transgender. Think about all the people that weren't that did it. Right. Why focus on the transgender? They're 0.5% of humanity. Mm-hmm. What's the big problem? Why are you afraid? They're going to change your children. That's not going to happen. It can't happen. I do agree. Kids don't need to know about any of that stuff when they're young. They don't need to. A drag queen doesn't need to go into a school with a 6-year-old and talk about gender identification. The kid doesn't know what he wants to be. That's right. I do agree. I do agree that maybe you shouldn't get your sex changed until you're at least 18 and you know exactly what the fuck you're doing. Mm-hmm. But before that, nurture the person. Let them be a woman or a man if they want to be. Let them understand why they are who they are. But let's find a balance. Let's just not go everything works or nothing works. Right. You know, I don't get this big separation. And it's all because of ignorance and basically non-truth, you know, at the end of the day. You know, I mean, even you know, I watch when if I say something that's slightly political and somebody throws in a politic, and then somebody else comes in and says, "You stupid idiot, you believe that stuff," and I'm thinking, but why don't you text that person and go, why do you believe this?
Exactly.
So give me your reasoning, because, you know, if you believe something so much, there must be a passionate reason why you believe that way. I want to know so I can understand, so we can have a intelligent conversation and come to a conclusion.
Yes.
I don't see that anymore. It seems like people don't want to hear this, but I think a lot of people do. Probably the majority of people do. It's just the bad apples yell the most.
Yeah, they're the ones getting all the camera time on the news stations, for sure. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Scott, you got anything else?
Like with Trump, it's like, let's find out what he did before we make an assumption.
Right.
It's like, what a way to politicize and make a lot of money is make a statement on a Friday so the media can make a whole lot of fucking money arguing about it all week until Tuesday to find out what the verdict is. You know, and you know, wake up, people, wake up. It's all bullshit. They're all doing it to make money from you. They're lying. Both sides are lying. Fox News lies out their throat. CNN just doesn't tell you what you really need to hear. It's the same thing. People, stop siding. Look at the middle.
If we do what you said, if we all sit down and listen to the other perspective and how that person got there, man, this world would be a better place in a hurry, you know?
Yes, I think it would be.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What you got?
Really do.
If someone was a new fan and they first started listening to King's X and they came up to you and they said, this song Cigarettes, I think it's off of Dogman.
Dogman, yes.
What is this song about?
I wrote that song, and it isn't about anything. That's the thing about Ty, is I write songs that I'm dealing with, things I'm dealing with. Ty has a knack for writing just great lyrics about stuff, and it really hits hard to people, but you can't pinpoint it. It's like he writes lyrics that you run with it and you find life in it, but there's no reason. You know, I write lyrics where, well, this happened to me and this happened to me, so this is why I wrote these lyrics. And that's the difference between him and I. In Cigarettes, you know, I remember asking him about just the one line, have you gotten any cigarettes? And have you got anything from me? And what I love about that line is most people think that he's asking someone to go get him some cigarettes if they're going to the store. But he's not. He's saying, have you gotten any cigarettes? Did you get anything from me? So the person went to the store to get some cigarettes, and he's saying, did you get something from me? Did you pick a candy bar up or something? Did you give me a Coke? You know, that's kind of what he's saying.
Wow, that's
cool. And then he says, sometimes I think the pain blows my mind, which is universal.
Yes.
Pain blows all our minds. And I'm going, he nailed that. And that's what I love about Ty's lyrics. He nails another part of the psyche that I haven't tapped into. I'm always wearing my heart on my sleeve, you know.
Sure.
The music to that song is beautiful.
Absolutely.
I like the feeling it gives me. It's kind of a sadness feeling to that song, and your voice is just beautiful over it. And it's kind of an eerie guitar, I guess, chord choices in that. It kind of reminds me of a little bit of Mother Love Bone, one of their songs they have as well.
Interesting.
I think it was the Shiloh, or I forget the name.
Can't remember.
Yeah, but anyway, Chloe or something like that, one of their songs.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful song, and I just want to ask you about it because I just think it's just a remarkable
It's a masterpiece for sure.
Thank you.
You've been so generous with your time, and we definitely want to plug the album one more time. I want to say something to you.
Oh, there were some more questions. What are they?
Oh, are you wanting to stay on a little bit?
I can do this.
Oh,
we have a lot of people watching the stream right now, and they have some amazing questions.
Let's answer some questions.
So
and let's
sweet.
take a few minutes and do that.
Any more material from him and Lynch? From you and Lynch?
Yeah, we're talking about a new album. And this album, all three of us decided that this record has got to be the record. You know, when it comes to just songs that, you know, I shouldn't say hit songs, but, you know, they really want to focus on melodies and words this time, you know. I mean, I always write the words and I always write the melodies. They don't come near me. I won't let them. Mm-hmm. You know, I said, this is my area. I'm doing it. But they said, let's you know, kind of collaborate a little bit, which would be a good thing, you know. And I'm always up for upping things and finding a new angle. So that's a big deal for us. Is we're trying to write some really cool songs that the masses might buy, you know, by the masses.
Right.
You know, if that makes any sense.
No, it does.
You know, we're not phoning it in, and it's not going to be, you know, fake. It's going to be what we do. You know, I mean, I've written over 500 songs, so it's like I'm ready to get up here and just try to explore some more.
Sure. We did have a question from our good buddy, and he's a regular viewer, Tim Hewitt. He says you did some Hey Tim, you did some guest vocals on Roxanne's last 2 albums. How did that come about?
Oh well, Jamie does all the KXM videos, and that's how we became friends. And later on, I found out that Jamie's been to every King's X show in LA, and he's a big King's X fan. And so, you know, he asked me to sing on "Go Fuck Yourself." Right. And so I did. It's funny because I always said I would never say fuck in a song unless I put Jesus in it too, just because I like the dichotomy of it, and I like to just annoy people. But he asked me to sing on the record, and I go, sure. And so I never listened to the song. I didn't pay attention. I'm always busy. And all of a sudden he calls me and says, you ready to sing on this song? And I go, yeah. So I go out to the studio. He plays me the song, and I'm going, "Go fuck yourself." And I'm going, okay, that's something that I don't normally do. And I said, so who's singing that part? He goes, "You are." Oh, man. And I sat and they're going, okay, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to go for it. And so I'm going to just suffer the consequences if King's X fans have a problem with it, you know, or whatever, you know. It's like, that's the way it is. And I did it. It became a big deal, a good big deal for most people. I mean, it was like people loved it. And I'm going, okay, so I'm a little bit, I guess, you know, growing up in a Christian world and how you're judged 24 hours a day, and even not being in that world for the last couple decades, I still have that mentality where I don't want to offend anyone in a way that's just blatantly offending them. If I'm going to offend someone, I want a reason for it, and I want to back it up. You know, yeah. I just don't want to just say something just to annoy them. What's the use of that? If I'm going to annoy you, I want you to learn something. Mm-hmm. But on this song, it was like it showed me that it's okay, Doug. You can be yourself. You don't have to censor everything that you do. It's at this point in your life, you are who you are. You do what you do, and if people don't like it, screw it. Mm-hmm.
Jason Fritz, who's in the chat room, brings up, since you're talking about this, he asks, their early work has a lot of spiritual influence. If I remember correctly, their CDs were in the Christian music section. Yes. 2 questions. First, do they think that hurt their ability to sell records? Because I believe that they should have been much bigger. Secondly, did they renounce their faith? I've read that they have, but I was wondering if he would be willing to speak about this. Yeah,
I think it did hinder us, like I was saying about the Rolling Stone interview, you know. So it did hinder us in some ways, but yet it didn't hinder Stryper. So, you know, we could argue all day over that. But what was the second part of it?
Secondly, did they renounce their faith? I read where they have.
We never renounced anything. Like made an official say we're not Christians anymore. You know, we're not believers anymore, and we just kind of morphed into it through the years. I mean, just remember that was 30 some years ago when we were like gung ho Jesus freaks, and through the years we see life a little differently, and our belief systems have changed. I did come out in a Christian magazine. I think I did it on purpose. We were talking, and I was doing an interview, and they were going at from the religious aspect, and I thought, there's so much hypocrisy here. I don't know how to deal with this, and I don't want to get crazy here. So I just said, well, I'm gay. And wow, it was like that was the crux of it. And the Christian bookstores all took our records out, and it was over for us in the Christian world. And we were happy about that. We talk about it because at that point we realized that we can now go do what we want to do and not worry about this. The judgment. I mean, people will come up and go, "You're not giving altar calls after your show. You're not Christian. You don't love Jesus." And I'm going, "What's that got to do with anything?" Yeah. And I realized when I used to be in that world, it was so important to bring everybody to Christ. And what I missed was just being who you are. And they'll come to Christ if they see something in you that they see that's real. Yes. You can't talk anybody into believing anything. And I talked a lot of people into coming to Jesus. And I've talked a lot of people to come out of it too, sadly enough. I hate to say it that way, but I brought a lot of people to Christ, and I brought a lot of people out of the world, that world later on. So it's like, logically, I look at everything logically. I'm a very spiritual and emotional person, so I feel deeply. But as an IMFJ, I see both sides of the situation, and I feel them so acutely that sometimes I think I'm crazy. And being when I was a Christian, growing up in that world, something wasn't right. I watched people doing what they did, and their hands in there, and they're praising God, and they're jumping around, and they're, all the antics that were going on around me, and I wasn't feeling it. And I would pray. I'd pray, God, why am I not feeling it? Why? What's going on? And I realized that I have a personality that is in another spot of the psyche, and I can't subscribe to it now. It is for me, it hinders me finding the energy and the truth that is available. When you put rules on something, when you put a name on something, and when you put someone in a container and say, you have to stay here, believe this, do this, I can't do that. I've never been able to do that. Yeah. If you say this is the way it is and you can't change that, I go, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense to me. Let me find out what's the other angle. And then let me decide whether it's true to me or not. And somebody said to me one time, he says, well, even though you don't believe whatever that means, what do you think God's gonna say to you when you die and have to stand before him? And I said, well, God is probably going to say, hey, come on in. I was right. You were wrong. It's all good. Because for me, it's not angst or anger against religion or God. To me, it's like, I'm just seeking truth that works and that rings in my heart as truth and seeing results. And so that's all I can see. And if God, and not if, God, if he exists, and he is a God that everyone talks about, the loving, kind God that understands and knows all and sees all, then I'm okay, because he knows exactly why I feel the way I do and why I've come to the conclusion I've come to, and what's happened in my life that brought me to that conclusion. I have no problem with that, and I'm better off than most, I believe, because my heart is pure when it comes to that.
I want to offer you something, Doug. I hope you don't mind me stepping in here.
Go ahead.
I'm a believer, and I just want to apologize to you for the hurt and rejection and pushing away that you've felt from the Christian community. That is a story too often told and too often heard when people feel more welcomed in a bar than a church. The church is doing something wrong. So on behalf of Christians, I do apologize. I tell you, Christians have hurt me too, but man, I've had some atheists knock the hell out of me as well. And I think it's just it's the human being condition where we have a choice to either demolish each other or build each other up. And I think if you follow the principles of Christ, love conquers all. Yes, and that's really where we're supposed to be.
Exactly. And, and I say to atheists too, I'm sorry, but just because you say there is no God doesn't mean shit either. It's like, like they know, or like who knows? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And you're a fucking idiot if you think you do. If whatever you believe, you live your life, you live it the best you can, you do the best you can, and you have peace in your heart and you go do it. But don't tell me that this is the infallible truth, because we don't know. No one's come back and told us. And those who have, you can argue it was the brain, it was the oxygen leaving, it was the hallucination. You can make up anything, because there is no answer. Either you believe it and you live it, or you don't and you live your life. And at the end of the day, when we die, we will find out. Until then, the point is mute, as far as I'm concerned, And some of my best friends are Christians, and I love them to death. And we don't argue about anything. They pray for me, and I love them. And they're not down on me about it, right? Because they know me. This is the thing that I love about the Christians that know me and love me, is they know me. They know what I've been through. They know how I see the world. We've had our conversations in depth about how we believe, what's brought us to this place or that place. And they look at me and go, I get you, Doug. I might not believe the way you believe, but I get why you believe that way, and I love you, and we're good. And if we could all do that, the world would be so much better. But instead, you got to follow the rules, in so many ways.
I love you, brother, and I am going to pray for you. And
thanks.
We can agree to disagree, but I love you, and I love your music, and I thank you for what you've given the world.
Whatever you're praying, if God answers it, then more power to you. And I'm excited.
You got it. Hey, man, you have been so generous and so kind. I want to make sure people get. Let me pull up some dates. You guys announced some new dates today. Now these were already up. We'll get to the newly announced dates here in a minute. But you guys are going to be in. Let's see. Is that Milwaukee or Minnesota?
Or Michigan.
Or Michigan.
I don't know. I've got to check that stuff out. I don't pay attention.
Well, you guys are up there in the Midwest somewhere, and then you're down in Texas in May, and then you have some dates in New Mexico and Colorado in June. Then these just got announced just earlier this evening, some July dates. You guys will be over in North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia. And
I just learned that from you.
Get your bass ready to go.
This is why we're here.
We're here to serve you, man.
We've got some gigs in about 12 or about a week, and so I'm starting to go over the songs and trying to work myself up and get myself going. And we're playing Chicago area, playing for my family, and I got a lot of relatives. They all want to come, and so it's going to be fun.
If you had to choose one, playing live or recording in the studio, which one would it be? It's only one.
Well, it used to be live, because nothing like playing live. Studio, you're just under the microscope, and it's like it brought out everything I hated about myself. But I have switched lately, and I would rather be in a studio now, because I can get what I want in a studio. And live, the difference for me live is I can still play like I always played, but vocally, I'm 72, and your voice doesn't, it just keeps going down and down and down. That's what happens to all of us.
Sure.
And I've had to relearn singing, and I've had to stop doing a lot of songs that I just couldn't pull off anymore. And the hardest thing is to hear someone go, why do these old rockers still go out there and sing when clearly can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. And I don't want someone to have to say that about me. So I'm at a transition point in my life right now where I'm not singing the way I want to sing. Now, other people might go, oh man, you still got it, and the passion's there, and we love what you do. But I know the struggle that I go through trying to do what I used to do without any effort. Now it just takes so much to get that vocal track and get it on pitch. And, you know, I used to have an impeccable pitch. I mean, I passed my music theory class because I sang a cappella song in C and ended it in the last note was C, and I didn't even waver. You know, my pitch was so good. And, you know, vocally, you know, I was a great singer in my own right. And now I look back and go, I can't do that anymore. And I took it for granted.
Sure.
So right now, I'll be honest with you, I'm seriously dealing with it. You know, even going out on tour right now, it's like we're tailor making the sets. Ty and Jerry are singing more. I'm singing less songs that I wrote and more song, and letting Ty sing more stuff that he sang, because it's just not working. And I just think, well, if I just back off a little bit, you know, people forgiving, they love me anyway, and we'll do what we do. But it's really, really hard. And always, you know, I ask anybody who's old. I mean, my legs hurt. You know, you know what I'm saying. Everything's falling apart in some ways. And so playing wise is the same way. And I want to be relevant. I want to go out and still wow the crowd like I used to.
Well, you still look great, man.
Yeah,
and
you do.
The bass looks great on you still. So just keep doing what you guys do, and we thank you guys we thank you guys for putting out new music and for you coming on our stream. And if you would, you know, our streams on YouTube and our Facebook and Twitter and all that. If you can reshare that for us, help us out a little bit, that would be amazing. Sure. And everyone in the chat room is loving this interview, and we have nothing but love for you. And just go out there and kick ass.
Thanks everybody for chiming in and your questions and stuff, and we love you.
Dug Pinnick, thank you so much for joining us on Tulsa Music Stream. We'll catch up with you down the road. Everybody go pick up 3 Sides of One. Support these guys. They are still out there grinding and doing a great job. We love you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thanks, buddy. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Nice guy. Whew.
That was a lot.
That was a lot. Wow.
A lot of questions, wasn't it?
I love him. I do. I think he's a good soul. I think he's been mistreated, and it breaks my heart that people didn't treat him better along the way. But we have love for him now.
Yeah, we treated him.
I hope we gave him all the respect and love that he knows that not only we feel, but the people watching this show. You know, there was more excitement about the announcement of this episode than some of our more commercially successful artists. So it just shows that sometimes if your band isn't huge, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's the level of impact you have.
And that was kind of part of when I was saying, you know, they have a cult following like Kiss, and you know, or Rush. You know, that fan base is just strong and thick, and will always, you know, be by that band side, and their fans are a lot like that too. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I hear their music and I listen to their voices and everything, and it just seems like something big should have happened for those guys.
It feels like it. I mean, I think there are a handful of bands that they should have been bigger than they were, and those guys definitely fall in that category. For those of you who aren't big fans of religious talk, sorry about that. I kind of had a feeling we were going to go down that path, and I wanted to say my piece. You all know what I believe, and I'm always going to stand up for that, but I'm always going to be respectful of differing beliefs and other people's beliefs. But my experience in life is you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and I look at religious folks like the kind that have burned Dug Pinnick as the bathwater. Don't throw out the baby. That's my belief. But we love him, and we will support him. And man, I wanted to talk more about Jimmy and these great pictures. Go to DUGNation.net. Jimmy Fusen, our good friend who's taken pictures of our band and so many bands, he's got just a really neat section of pictures of Doug on there. And I was glad to get to share. Yeah, there's one there. And then this one is the one that just grabbed me because, man, I mean, that's a King's X fan base right there. They just love Doug and love those guys. So this was a fun one, guys. We appreciate you all tuning in on Monday night. It's a little late. We're gonna kind of pick up the pace here. We're putting Tulsa on the rock and roll map. We're trying. One stream at a time with rock solid interviews. Man, you said that with your smooth radio voice. That was good. Remember, guys, you can always see us. Dang it, I always go to the wrong one first. You can always see us live or the replays on our Tulsa Music Stream YouTube channel. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, just look for Tulsa Music Stream. If audio is your thing without the video, check us out on Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Let's talk about what we've got coming up. Keeps rolling, and we're having a great time doing it. Tuesday, April 11th at 8 p.m. Central, Steve Lynch of Autograph will be joining us. Wednesday, April 26th at 8 p.m. Central, James Kotak of Kingdom Come, ex-Scorpions, will be with us. And then this one, we just firmed it up today. This is going to be amazing. Ronnie Tintin Yonkins. I have to work on pronunciation of that. I think it's Yonkins. No, I've heard people say Yonkins of Kicks. He will be on with us Friday, a Friday night TMS party, May 19th at 8 p.m. Central. Kicks, man. And he's got a really neat story too. I think he's been through some hard times. Band. Yeah, he is. We'll talk about his new band. I want to find out. I hope we can ask what his current status is with Kicks. We don't know, do we? Yeah. Guess we'll find out. We'll get it all out. Thank you to our sponsors, Okie PC, DEB Concerts, Identity Merch, GregShipman.com, Sycamore Filmworks. Guys, if you don't mind, please go to our Facebook page, Tulsa Music Stream. It would really help us out if you would buy a shirt. And the way you can do that is go to the top left section of that Facebook page and click on our website link, and it'll take you to where you can pick up a shirt. We need to get some shirts moving and get Todd Cook out at Identity Merch printing some TMS stuff for us. Other than that, Teresa, do you want to stay off camera or come on? It's up to you. I just want people to understand how important it is for you guys to share our stuff, hit our notification, but more importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to get to 1,000 subscriptions. Yes. 500 right now would be amazing. And then it'd go all downhill from there. So hit subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us build that thing. And, the bigger we get, the more interviews and bigger artists we can bring on and keep this thing alive. So, without you guys, this simply does not work. It's true. And I want to give a shout out to Teresa. She is on cam right now with us. We have the split cam going. She was traveling all weekend, made a point to be here tonight. I know she's tired. God love you, girl. We thank you for coming. And she helps us with the transcript and does stuff that you guys don't even see her doing, but it counts and it matters. We are missing 9 tonight. He's at band practice again. He's busy with Josie Scott's band. They're getting ready for their road shows out on the road, so you guys be watching for that. And he'll be back on with us when we interview Steve Lynch. I have nothing else unless you guys want to say something. You got anything? Any words of wisdom? None. Zero. Zilch. Not today. Say hello to everybody. Oh, you're giving. All right. Good to see you guys. Thanks for coming. Yes, thank you all. Have a wonderful week, guys. Thank you again, and we'll see you back here very soon on Tulsa Music Stream. Tell your friends about this one. I think you'll want to watch the replay. We love you. Good night. Stacey Lottigan says, "Hey, Teresa Gaddy. Love you, girly." Aw, so sweet. You guys have a good one. We'll see you soon. Good night.